This is the third vid on spiritual wife system and Joseph Smith's Polyandry. Now, this one is really upsetting. Henry Jacobs' wife, Zena. Okay, so Priscinda, 20-year-old sister of Zena, was living in the Joseph Smith home when elder Henry B. Jacobs married her in March of 1841. According to family records, when Zena and Henry asked Joseph Smith why he had not honored them by performing their marriage, Smith replied that the Lord had made it known to him that Zena was to be his celestial wife. Believing that whatever the prophet did was right, without making the wisdom of God's authorities bend to the reasoning of any man, the devout elder Jacobs consented for his 6 months pregnant Zena to be sealed to Joseph Smith, October 27, 1841. Some have suggested that Jacob's marriage was unhappy and that the couple had separated before her sealing to Joseph Smith. But though sealed to Joseph Smith for eternity, Zena continued her concubinal relationship with her husband, Henry Jacobs. On February 2nd, 1846, pregnant with Henry's second son, Zena was resealed by proxy to the murdered Joseph Smith, and in that same session was sealed for time to Brigham Young. Faithful Henry B. Jacobs stood by as an official witness to both ceremonies. History of Henry B. Jacobs, blah, 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 blah. You can look it up. Zena and Henry lived together as husband and wife until the Mormon pioneers reached Mount Pisgah, Iowa. At this temporary stop on the Pioneer Trail, Brigham Young announced that it was time for men who were walking in other men's shoes to step out of them. Brother Jacobs, the woman you claim for a wife does not belong to you. She is the spiritual wife of Brother Joseph, sealed up to him. I am his proxy, and she, in this behalf, with her children, are my property. You can go where you please and get another, but be sure to get one of your own kindred spirit. President Young then called Jacobs on a mission to England. Witnesses to his departure commented that he was so emotionally ill they had to put him on a blanket and carry him to the boat to get him on his way. Henry returned from his mission and settled in California, but he was still in love with his wife, Zena, now plural wife of Brigham Young. Henry's letters to his wife, Zena, were heart-rending. 1852, he wrote, "Oh, how happy I should be if only I could see you and the little children. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I am so unhappy," Henry lamented. "There is no peace for me. My pleasure is you. My comfort is vanished. Oh, Zena, will I ever get again to see you? Answer this question, please. I am undated Valentine. I'll ever get you." So anyway, the guy was heartbroken. Joseph and Brigham destroyed his family, destroyed his life, gathering women for themselves. It's one of the most disturbing stories I've ever read. We didn't read the Nancy Rigdon one where he went after her. She told him to take a hike to hell. But the letter he wrote her is just appalling, excusing any sort of lasciviousness that he wants to be involved with. And woman after woman testifies of Joseph Smith's advances and him saying it's, God said you were my spiritual wife, so let's hop in bed. Here's a little on that Nancy Rigdon thing. So he, arranges a meeting with her and locks the door and tells her this business about how she's supposed to be his spiritual wife. She tells him to take a hike to hell. But Nancy was not cooperative despite her young age. She did not hesitate to express herself. The prophet's behavior shocked her, and she rebuffed him. Blah, blah, blah. Wycliffe Rigdon wrote that Smith flustered became... Anyway, he beckoned for Mrs. Hyde, Orson Hyde's wife, who had consented to be, Orson was sharing. He was on a mission when Joseph grabbed his wife, but so she became part of his illicit harem, shall we say. So he got her in there to try to convince Sidney Rigdon's daughter to, be one of his concubines. So she got angry and left. So anyway, Joseph Smith writes her this letter, and the following day, Joseph Smith sent Nancy this letter as recorded in the Official History of the Church, Volume 5, page 134 through 136. So, this isn't some Baptist, anti-Mormon, made-up stuff they're throwing girls out the temple window into the Salt Lake garbage. This is documented stuff. Church historian, footnotes, etc., etc. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can get on the internet and take a look. But, here's some of the highlighted things. He says, that which is wrong under one circumstance, is right under another. And I think he talks about the whole, Abraham sacrificing his son thing in here. And even things which might be considered abominable to all who understand the order of heaven only in part, but which is really all right. Really, we're right because God gave and sanctioned by special revelation. And these are these special revelations he kept saying he was having, that it was okay to be his wife for the night business, as woman after woman had testified. This principle will justly apply to God's dealings, all of God's dealings with his children. Everything that God has given us is lawful and right, and it is proper that we should enjoy his gifts and blessings whenever and wherever he is disposed to bestow. But if we should seize upon some blessings, blah, blah, blah. But in obedience there is joy and peace upon it. I'm just reading the black stuff here. Blessings offered but rejected are no longer blessings, but become like the talent hid in the earth by the wicked and slothful servant. So if she wants to preserve her virtue from the prophet, then she's a wicked, slothful servant. Our Heavenly Father is more liberal in his views and boundless in his mercies and blessings than we are ready to believe or receive, and in the same time is more terrible to the workers of iniquity, more awful in the executions of his punishments, and more ready to detect every false way than we are apt to suppose him to be. Ask and ye shall receive. Okay, listen to the voice of my servant whom I have sent. Okay, so he tries to use his divine authority to persuade her to give in to his sexual advances. And somewhere else in there, he also said, we can arrange a private wedding if you feel it's necessary in order to make this okay. So he was, excuse me, he was proposing the concubinage action that his normal spiritual wife system thing that the church never talks about, not the let's be sealed. It's ridiculous, and this is the church history. They had a chance to see it's in his handwriting and so forth. Using his position to coerce women even girls, to married women, young girls, to satisfy his lust. If you take the time to do your research, you will see it's much different than you're told in Sunday school, and sweeping generalizations and explanations that you get from those who dispense the approved version of history. You can listen to that if you want, or you can do your own research and not be lazy about it. Google these. I hate to say Google. Web search these things. Use a different search engine maybe. And you will see that these predatorial behaviors, it's the same thing you see in a lot of organizations where you've got an alpha male running it, and predatory behavior is exercised. And I encourage anyone to read the story of Joseph Jackson. Don't discount it because the propaganda was against him. He corroborates and is corroborated by people like John D. Lee and others, who are close to the leadership of the church, and the Council of 50, Danites, and things like that. Things are much, much different than we're told. And he said that a lot of these girls lived in deplorable situations that were being used by Joseph and his inner circle, which included Hiram and John Bennett and some others. They'd kicked Bennett out when he got busted, but there were others. And what was going on in Nauvoo, there were a lot of people that wrote about it, and it's nothing like we get in the correlated manuals from the church. But we do have original source material. Just to make this clear, Official History of the Church, Volume 5, pages 134 through 136. See also the letter of the prophet Joseph Smith to Miss Nancy Rigdon, Joseph Smith Collection, LDS Archives. You're not going to see that advertised on a nice, colorful photo, read this now, on the front page of LDS.org, because the information we get there is heavily filtered. It's called information control. And when you study how certain organizations keep their people in the dark and blindly following, told to stay away from outside sources of material and just trust what they have is the only trustworthy thing to read, which is the kind of thing you see on Gospel Topics, essays, introduction, and that sort of thing. And they promise to be, giving you a nice, supposedly, in-depth, balanced, reliable, whatever, and it's nothing but polemics, nothing but apologetics, nothing but twisting things, and they don't like to use the scriptures that contradict everything that they say there. And this is the kind of thing that we see constantly on LDS.org and in the church manuals. You have to look to original source material to get the truth, because it doesn't support the the position that a righteous, all-knowing, and unchanging God is guiding the Church of Christ, which became the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which became the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Which, of course, you don't see that on LDS.org either. And we also showed another video how Joseph Fielding Smith covered that up and said it was indicated like it was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from the very beginning. And we're up on the, treasure digging, the necromancy, the witchcraft and magical practices, the rock in the hat translating the Book of Mormon, all these phony stories we've had that didn't tell what was true, and now more of it's coming out. We've seen nothing but whitewashing and dishonesty.